This is Back to Back.
What's up, back-to-backers? This is Willy Joy. Welcome to the show. It's Back to Back. You're listening to it. I'm talking on it. It's my podcast. That was a weird way to introduce it, but hey, I'm too lazy to make another one, so we're going to stick with this. How you guys doing? How was your week? How you feeling? I hope you had a great one. My guest on the show today, this is really cool. My guest is SNBRN, and SNBRN and I sat down in his apartment in Los Angeles for this conversation. I had never met the guy before. I was familiar with his music, really talented producer. He was actually in a group before he was SNBRN, kind of a heavier electro house group I had no idea about. I used to play their songs all the time back in the day. And he was just an awesome guy. We had a great talk. It was really cool to get to know him. He's got a new single called Melrose that's out on Ultra right now. It just dropped. You got to go grab that. And his North American tour is on sale right now. He's heading all across the USA and Canada. You need to go get your tickets to go see SNBRN. I'm going to put the link to where you can find all of that in the description of this show. And yeah, speaking of this show, are you subscribed to Back to Back? Really? Are you? I hear you nodding, but it's not a very convincing sound. Look, guys, it's super easy. All you got to do, just click the subscribe button. It's one word. It says subscribe. You click it. I know we all know how to click things. That way, every time I post new episodes, anytime there's new content in the world of Back to Back, it is hand-delivered from me directly to your device. It just pops up there whenever I post it. You don't have to look for it. You don't have to worry about, oh, did I miss it? No, you didn't miss it. It's on your phone. It's on your computer because you're smart, because you subscribed. If you're listening on SoundCloud, just follow the Back to Back account. Same deal there. And if you really like this show, if you really want to win some brownie points, just leave us a rating and review on iTunes. The show's growing a lot right now. We got a lot of exciting things going on. And the best way to help support us is by leaving that rating and review. It means a lot to us. I'm not going to read any email this week. I'm recording this a few days early because I'm going to be out of town next weekend when I usually record these intros. And so if anything crazy happened in the world, anything crazy happened in music, I don't know about it. So that's why I'm not talking about it. I recorded this a few days ago. All right, so let's get into this conversation with SNBRN. I'm always a little anxious when I'm going to talk to somebody that I've never met before for this show. You know, this started off, I was talking only to my friends, people I'd known for a long time. It was a comfortable thing. And I'm not a social butterfly, so going to talk to new people, that can be intimidating. You know, I get a little anxious about it. But this couldn't have been a more fun conversation. I had a blast, and it was really fun to hear from someone who makes a different kind of music than I make and runs in slightly different circles. I talk a little bit about this in the actual conversation, but it's always a weird thing where DJs of different genres always stick together. If you really think about it, it's just a minuscule difference between us. We really all do the same stuff. We're musicians, we sit in front of a computer, out of that comes some music, people dance to it, we play it as DJs. We're all doing the same shit. But it's actually kind of rare to cross the party lines, so to speak, and hang out with people from different genres and different styles. So it was really cool to talk to SNBRN, hear his perspective, hear his story. I love talking to him about his aspirations, both for his own music. He wants to start a label. A lot of good insight about the industry, about making music. And honestly, we just had fun. This was a fun one, guys. I enjoyed it. I think you're going to enjoy it too. Don't forget to grab SNBRN's new single called Melrose, which is out right now. Don't forget his North American tour for the fall and winter is on sale right now. Link in the description of this show. And that's it. Plug's done. Let's get into this right now. This is me and SNBRN back to back. Let's go. And it's interesting to me the difference, because really we're doing the same shit. We're producers, we're DJs, we love music, but I think especially for our fans, or not even fans, but just people who like our styles of music, people get a separation in their head. You know?
Absolutely. It's pretty divided. Like, like dance music's supposed to be this whole like everybody together, one love kind of situation, but then it's this kind of like divide, this like different groups, kind of like high school, like the water polo team stays here and the football team stays here.
Right.
You know, like it's odd, and like, but there is also appreciation for both sides.
Well, and I think from the artist side, we kind of know that it's all the same thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And that it's just kind of whatever we find our way to. And it's interesting. One of the things I wanted to talk to you about was that I had read that you had a bunch of other projects before the Sunburn project.
Yeah.
And were those similar in style or?
Absolutely. Opposite is my whole career started in San Diego in like 2011, 2010 with a group called Nobody. And it was this kind of dirty Dutch, hard electro mastercraft, like Afrojack, early Afrojack kind of style. And then after that, it was a partnership between me and this other guy, Ruben. And after that, kind of like fizzled out, and we tried to do our own other projects. After that, it was a project called Fire, F-Y-O-R. And it was kind of when Big Room was taking...
I think I have some of those old tracks, actually. I don't think I knew that was you.
Yeah, when like the whole Big Room thing, so like then that sound kind of developed. And then I started Sunburn way before I actually like put it out, and it was like Donna Summer remixes. It was like all vinyl, like recut, just super disco.
Yeah.
And then as deep, I saw Disclosure for like the first time like years ago, and I was like, this is so fucking cool. Like, how can I incorporate kind of both of them? And then it kind of became this like beach house.
Yeah.
Beach house. This like this summery kind of like house music, but kind of with deeper sounds and
At the beginning of it, were you doing it kind of as a reaction to what you had been doing before to do something different?
It was just an outlet of like fun. Like just this is something fun that I can do. Like it was just my creative outlet of like, and then I hit a point of fuck, like this Big Room thing is dying. I hate this fucking music. What do I do? And then like my friends are like, dude, like my manager like loves your music. You should talk to him about like restarting the whole Sunburn brand and stuff like that. I was like, okay. And then really started developing that style, and it just like brought me so much joy. And I just kind of found my little niche, and I've been going for it, you know?
Yeah, it's kind of all a matter of that right time, right place, right sound kind of thing, right? It's funny that way because I see so many producers, even now, some really talented guys making really good music, but for whatever reason, that spark doesn't catch, you know? And it's like you said, it's, you know, you had all these other projects beforehand, and I'm sure you were working hard on those too. And yeah, it's just one of those funny things that I think maybe the key is like what you said, where you started doing it just for fun, right?
That's when the true, like, because my goal and my dream for those times was like, I wanted to be Nicky Romero. I want to be Tommy Trash.
Yeah.
I was not like, when I did Sunburn, I was trying to be me, and everything else went out. And when you're trying to not replicate something and just fucking do it, that's when true creativity shines through.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And were you, in your previous projects, were you kind of hitting those walls or hitting those ceilings of, you know?
Yeah, because I mean, at the time, it's the development of like, you know, you're new to production, and that's how you learn, is by replicating. Even art. If you ever take art classes, how they teach you to paint is by, you know, replicating projects and like doing that. So once you get good enough and your skills are like honed in, then that's when you can start to develop your own style and your own sound and truly grow. So it took like 10 years as an artist to like really grow into my shoes and be comfortable with me, you know?
Yeah. Well, so let's take it back a little further even. Did you have musical training growing up? Or?
Oh, yeah. So my mom and dad made me play piano
Yeah.
Which I hated so much. But then I called my mom like a couple years ago. I was like, well, thank you.
So because my mom tried to teach me piano, and I think I've told this story on the show before, and I just wouldn't let her. Like we just
No.
clashed. Yeah, I don't know if I was just being a brat or what it was.
Well, no kid wants to be like, yeah, I want to play piano. It's like that, and then I started doing guitar, and then I was in jazz band doing trumpet because it's like piano is like the not cool instrument. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
But it's funny because exactly like you said, you called your mom. Like I've talked to my mom later. I was like, man, I really wish I would have let you teach me piano back then because I still don't know. I mean, I've taken, I went to school for music. I mean, I can pick out a tune, but I'll never be a piano virtuoso. Yeah. Although what's funny is I also was a jazz trumpet player in high school, just like you. Yeah, and I've talked to other people. I talked to AC Slater, used to play the trumpet. There's a bunch. It's a weird DJ trumpet connection.
DJ trumpet connection?
I don't know. I mean, I get Timmy Trumpet still plays the trumpet, but
it's sexy.
Brass tracks.
I like so it's like I liked the brass because I could do French horn as well, and like knowing that. But the sax is also like too confusing for or even the trombone, it's all muscle memory.
Right.
And then strings, I have a guitar, but just it never clicked. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So piano and trumpet just make the most sense to me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And what did your parents do?
My mom was a school teacher. And then my dad was always in technology. So proud of my dad. Now my dad's the CIO of Gap, but just raised in technology. So I kind of got the best of both worlds of the creative side. My mom, just every instrument, just all of that. And then my dad, the technology side, just teaching me everything there is about computers, how to build computers and all of that. So then everyone's like, okay, this kind of makes sense where you are right now. You know what I mean? I'm not surprised at all that you would end up in this because it's the best. It's music and creative. You have to be really good at computers.
Yeah.
And you have to be really good at, making music.
And you have to be an entrepreneur, right?
You have to hustle. You have to have the hustle,
Yeah. Are you from LA originally?
Yeah, I'm born and raised Manhattan Beach. So I was a beach kid and then moved. I had enough of the beach and decided don't want to go to New York, but I'll go to the city. So I went downtown.
Right. Was there ever a thought that you would go live anywhere else, or did you just kind of see that the industry was heading here anyway?
It kind of all worked out. So when I moved out of my parents' house, I was didn't want to move too far away, and then I moved down here 10 years ago, just because it was the cheapest.
Right.
But it was also cool because I didn't want to live in Hollywood either. And then I also had a concrete building so I could make music.
Right. What else when you were a kid, were you good in school? Were you Oh,
I was fucking terrible. I just I just didn't like the way things were done. I didn't like school. And even because I did film for so long.
Okay.
And half the reason I like film and music is I can do what I want.
Yeah.
And
shooting film?
There's shooting film and editing. And I could do what I want. It's my project. And I would just take it so seriously and move so fast. So I'm sitting there okay, fuck, okay, I know how to do this. I know that. Teach me something.
Yeah.
And
when did you start shooting video or film?
When I was probably 12 years old.
Oh, wow.
I had a high-8 video camera and got Pinnacle, and then slowly graduated. And then I started shooting skate videos for Girl and Chocolate and stuff like that. Because
wait, what is that?
Skateboarding companies.
I don't know.
Oh yeah, so I was never good. I wanted to be a skateboarder, but I was never good enough to skate.
Yeah.
But I was good enough to follow and skate.
Right.
So did that, and then just got into film. And then in college, it was just I have to follow my rules, and I don't want someone to tell me what to do or work on a project that I think is just the fucking stupidest thing ever. So then that's why music is I have the control, I have the creative control.
Yeah.
It can be my dream.
Yeah, no boss. That's definitely the dream, man. So were you also making music outside of piano and band?
Yeah, I mean, I was in high school. I was my cousin. was like into recording and all of that stuff. So then I got into that, and then lots of bands. So then I was like in metal bands in high school, and like that whole kind of punk, like that because you're from San Diego, so the whole punk metal rock scene that like because then I got to do to be a roadie for Warped Tour when I was like 18.
Oh wow!
And like that was like the best.
That must have been crazy.
Seeing like Pepper and Flogging Molly, and it's like because I just loved Warped Tour more than fucking anything else. Like I would go to all of them: Ventura, San Diego, LA, like then like San Francisco. It was like my favorite thing. And,
that's dope, man. I played in some metal bands coming up as a teenager too, and it's cool now. I mean, I've only lived in California for a couple of years now, so it still feels kind of new to me. But just living in San Diego, I can see exactly what you were talking about. Of all the true punk and hardcore and like the surf culture, all of that.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's undeniable. It's another thing that I thought was only something in movies until I came here.
Bands and shorts and high socks.
Yeah. But then this like strong musical lineage too,
Yeah, because like growing up, the big band to come out of my high school, which was Maricosta Manhattan Beach, was Pennywise.
Oh, okay.
So then that was it. And then now it's funny because when I go back, it's like, it's me and Slander are the next ones to like come out of the school, and it's pretty fucking crazy. like this is this shift of like it's crazy because like the rock music has really taken like a toll, and people people don't care. But it's
tough
also
to be a rock band right now.
But it's so hard because there's like I got a phone call one night, and I was like, yo, we need a headliner for this festival in Puerto Rico. Like, when can you get on a plane? Like, I was like, oh shit, okay, I'll get it in the morning.
Not a bad call to get.
Yeah, but then like in a band, it's like you have to like get everybody together and figure out how to ship all your equipment or drive it out. Like, there's so much, and then
and split the money.
Yeah, it's like I just like, okay, I got a USB, let's go.
100%, man. So you went to high school with Slander?
Yeah, I went to high school with Slander.
Were they doing music at the time too?
No, I mean, I don't think anybody really was doing because
it was a different era.
Yeah, it didn't really exist, or like the technology, and then it was still so much analog gear at the time. And then once you got like like Massive and like all the Ableton and like Logic really started developing, and like it went from hardware to soft synths, and like all of that developed. That's when like you see the 16-year-old kids in Holland that are just like fucking crushing it.
So what was your entry point to electronic music?
It was Acid, Sony Acid.
Okay.
And that was that. And then I got into Reason for a good 3 years.
Yeah.
But then there was no VST or AU capability. So then eventually I went to more recording schools and then ended up at Icon. And I was like a Logic guy.
Okay.
So then that developed, and we got the new Logic. And then now, over the past year, I've been fluent in Ableton, just because like so many people use it, and when we do collaborations, it's so easy to like be all in the same DAW.
Yeah, I'm on Ableton too, and it's really nice when whoever I'm working with at least can like function in it.
Because then you're bouncing out stems. Like, what did you do? Like, oh, there's an error here. Like, oh shit, what? So it's like if you're all in there, and then also using this amazing program called Splice.
Yep.
Not only for the samples, but to share and bounce back projects. It just makes it so easy to collaborate.
Yeah, it's pretty wild how far Splice has come, man. I remember years and years ago, I was in New York, and me and Kurt from Flostradamus went up to their office like when they were just starting the company, and it was, I think, maybe like 4 guys in a tiny little room. And, they just had these big dreams for this project. And they more or less explained to us what is now Splice, but at the time, none of it existed. And some of those guys, Brett, if you're hearing this, man, shout out to you. I know you worked hard on that shit. Yeah, man. Shout out to Splice. Where would we be without Splice?
No, every project, you're like, shit, I need something in this key. That like, it's a lifesaver.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's the Cialis for producers. Like, when you can't get it up, Splice will get you up.
Man, they should pay you for that. But it's funny, like the things we rely on now. That, like, I've been thinking about SoundCloud a lot because SoundCloud was going to go away for a minute and then it didn't, and now it's here to stay, or I don't even fucking know. But, we all give so much shit to SoundCloud, And then the second it was about to go away, everyone got really worried.
Yeah. I mean, that's how I started, like, my whole career is that, like, that's how you found the artists or new artists, and that's how you put out remixes. And, like, I owe, like, most of my career to fucking SoundCloud. Just,
Right.
like, I would put out remixes, and that's how people found, you know?
Yeah.
And, like, it's interesting because, like, if that does go away or for whatever reason, like, how do young producers get out there and noticed? Like, it's really hard because like now it's all become Spotify and that kind of game, and it's like
Right.
that's like who you know, and like
It's who you know, and if you want to like bootleg a remix or something like
There's
that,
no way. Like,
how do you do it?
Yeah.
yeah, because that's such a strong way, and I used to do that too. That's such a good way for young producers to get noticed, to make a little noise. Is you sample something or you.
But that's
bootleg
just like
something.
a part of dance music is like how finding like finding new artists or people that I like or like stuff like that is like there's always like a bootleg remix or something like that's just part of like the dance music culture.
Did
Bootlegs.
you ever get in trouble for any of the
I
remixes
actually
you did?
there's the only one I ever got in trouble for was Dusky, and they just like didn't like it. But a lot of the time, like how some of the records and like how I got noticed was that we got this email this one time. It was from my Ace of Base remix, and it's this long email like, yo, we own the copyrights to this, all of this, da 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 da. I'm like, oh, me and my manager are like, oh fuck, and they're like, but this is really really dank, and we love this song, and like we'll let you keep it up if you have lunch with us, and like it's like okay, if you do a really good remix, and like my theory also as well too is that if you do a song that's at least like 7 to 10 years old or later, it actually helps drive traffic to the song.
Right.
Like, so if there's
the original,
to the original that is not getting any sales and boosts sales, versus something that like is brand new, you're in direct competition and people will like, so you're fighting that. But if you do something that's older, it actually helps the record companies, and they're stoked on it because then like it spikes iTunes traffic, and like, you know what I mean.
That's a really good tip because I think we probably
if anyone remixes Chainsmokers right when a Chainsmokers track comes out, please don't do this. This is advice from me. Don't do this. No more Chainsmokers remixes, please.
Please. And just in general, there's this culture now of the second somebody drops a new song, like a new Drake song drops or whatever it is.
5 minutes later.
5 minutes later, there's 100 new remixes of it. And I don't understand that because I think what you said earlier, if you go back and you dig for the gems people forgot about, but
do a
that
remix
we all
of
know.
something no one's ever like. That was my whole thing going into like my career. Someone is like, I'm gonna remix shit that no one has ever remixed, and like beg someone for the stems or even try to cut out pieces of that because then that makes it unique. And like, you know what I mean? No one's done that. And like with like the 50 Cent is like, no one's done that. And like that was like what I try to pride myself on is like finding the remix that no one did.
Did you ever hear anything from 50 Cent's camp about that?
No, I never heard anything about that one.
Yeah.
But if he's around listening,
50
hit me
Cent,
up.
if you're listening
Let's
to this.
collab.
What were you going to school for?
I was going to school for film, and I wanted to be like an editor, director, and just that was my vision. And
You wanted to make movies?
I wanted to make movies, man, and I was like really, really good at it. And
Living the Hollywood dream?
yeah, because my best friend in high school, his dad was the producer for House. So like in summers, I got to work on like the Fox lot, and like,
okay.
It's like this is cool. Like I really like this, and then it went sour just by the people, and just that culture was not what I thought it was gonna be. Like I guess more like if I was like an indie film producer, things would have been different.
Right.
But I just could not stand the people. I could not stand having to like work on, and that's also why like I even when I went to school, back to school for music, it was like being an audio engineer. I'm like, fuck this. Like, dude, I don't want to work on other people's music. I want to work on my own music and do that. So like that whole idea of working on someone else's project, and if you're not like for me, it's like passion is everything. So if I'm not passionate about something, I don't give a fucking single shit of what's going on. So there's just a huge gap of like...
Yeah, so even if you're working in the arts, if you're just kind of clocking in to do somebody else's project...
You might as well clock in anywhere because you're not doing anything that you love.
Right. Yeah, that's an interesting way to think about it. And so you left film school?
Film school.
Audio engineering school?
For audio engineering, and then that, I was like... And it just kept on jumping. I was like, and then that's when, I would spend every day just learning about music. And I was like, what do I do? Even at
Were you
audio
trying to make
yeah,
your
I
own
was trying to
music
make
at that
my own
point?
music at that time, and like audio engineering school was just like, okay, how do I make my song louder? How do I make my kick drums fatter? They're like, oh, just leave that to the professionals. Like there's people you pay for that. I was like, what?
So they were teaching you like recording instruments.
Yeah, and then I was like, how do you master and all that? And they're like, oh, like, well, you go to a mastering engineer, and then I went to school for that, and then it was like, no, and then Icon Collective came around, and it was like the first time that they even opened their doors, and there's like 2 people in my class, and then that's when it was just like, boom, game over.
Yeah,
like taught me everything. I would just like spend like every night there. Shout out to Brian Matrix. He was like my mentor, and then also like Dear Ramirez and like those guys, just kind of like all the tour room people, like just like would just give me so much advice and just like listen to my projects and be like, this is what you got to do to make it sound fatter. This is like all that kind of stuff, and they really actually care and help and show you about like the music you're making.
That's so nice, man. I never had that when I was learning, and I always wished I did, because I went to school for audio engineering too, out on the East Coast, and it was a similar thing where like, I guess I just wasn't thinking about it enough before I got into it. But, I showed up being like, all right, I want to make these tracks. Like, how do I do, these specific things? And it was much more about it to the teachers, oh, well, I'll show you how to mic this guitar amp.
Yeah.
And then, a very old school mentality about it. And what's cool about Icon is that I say this to people, if you're the kind of person who likes school and who does well in a class, I mean, they're kind of the only ones for what we do.
They're the only, like, and there's like Dubspot maybe, but I haven't heard anything. And then online courses, like, I have to be shown what to do.
Yeah, and I'm the same way. And it's funny because I think in the industry, especially in the DJ world, there's sort of a weird anti-school, like...
Yeah, it's YouTube.
yeah. And people, not everyone, but I've definitely talked to some people where you get the sense that they think people who are going to school are stupid, what I mean? Or like wasting their time, which for me, it's just, I don't know. I grew up a nerd. Like I always needed, I needed to be taught. I needed like some kind of structure.
More knowledge. And
yeah, exactly. And for me, it's helpful still. I don't know. It's 2 different mentalities. And I always found it weird that once I got into the music game for real, that there's this really strong anti-school vibe. I don't know. I never figured out exactly why.
I think it's everybody has the same story. And I know like my best friend, Dr. Fresh, same story is that everyone goes to learn, but they don't learn anything because it's like this basic structure of like what is like, the game has changed.
Yeah.
And the only people that have like changed with it are Icon, is that this like, no one is going and recording bands. Every studio I've ever fucking been to in the past 5 years, I have not seen them except for recording vocals.
Right.
There's like a fucking laptop sitting on an SSL desk. Like that is like that's the world that we live in now.
Yeah. And for our listeners who, if you haven't been in a recording studio, basically what we're talking about is you walk into a giant recording studio. There's one of those huge recording consoles in front of you that you've seen in movies or TV that costs, $100,000. And then all we do is just open up our laptop and put that on top of it.
Go out of an 1/8 inch. Yeah.
Which is sort of insane. But it's true. I think, I guess technology and just what we do is evolving too fast for a lot of institutions to keep up.
Yeah.
And I hadn't thought about that in that way, but I guess you're right. And that's sort of what it is now.
But there's changes too, because then at USC, there's like Dre's whole school of music and that, and it's slowly catching on. But like, I think a lot of it too is that the industry, especially the music industry, is so hesitant about any kind of change.
Yeah.
If you see even from like, from the Napster era to now of like, no, this is how it's been. You have to buy actual records, and like they're so hesitant of change. And now it's just like, okay, this is how things are going. Look at who's like headlining Coachella. This like things are completely shifted. And it's like, like not many people want to go and be able to record bands because like there's like, there's not a lot of bands out there.
It's rough, man. And it's, not to take anything away from people who are trying to do the band thing right now. It's, that was my dream when I was a kid. but it's tough, man.
Nashville, but like I was just in Nashville for a week. That's a whole different.
Right.
That's a whole different world. But like New York, LA, different.
Yeah.
You
Well, and
know?
I think country music is still doing pretty well.
Absolutely.
At least that's my understanding.
Huge. It's still massive. Like
Yeah.
Nashville, like huge.
Yeah, which is cool. And I like getting exposure to those other scenes. So, all right, so you were in the different schools, didn't really take to any of them. Did you leave audio engineering school at some
No, I
point?
graduated. I have a
Okay.
degree that I don't know what I'll do with.
Yeah,
but,
yeah,
you know,
same here.
I'll hang it up eventually if I can find it.
Yeah, I don't even know where mine is either. But so what happened after school? Did you kind of know that production and DJing was what you wanted to do at that point?
Yeah, and then it just hit this point of mom and dad. Like they moved up to SF, and I was like, "All right, this is what I'm gonna do." And they're like, they're like trying to explain it, and then I just like I didn't really have a backup plan, and just kind of pursued it, and then luckily like the guys LED in San Diego were amazing enough to like help support me along the journey, and I was like a resident DJ,
Oh, okay.
and whatever I could.
So
to,
they
like,
would just put you on a
put
lot
me
of
on
their
as like, many
shows.
shows to open up and be an opening DJ, and just really honed in on my skills on learning CDJs and just being good at opening, and then finally working my steps up, and then like everything just kind of built into itself.
Yeah.
Then when my time kind of came, I was just like ready, and it's like, all right, you can throw me on the road and I can fucking play a set and just like what to
Right.
do.
Yeah.
Versus like now like the shift is a little different because some of these kids are bedroom producers, but they didn't have the same experiences like some of like the older, like some of us older guys, like of like being a resident DJ, and that practice of like opening for somebody.
Yeah,
and like
playing to a crowd who doesn't know or care who you are.
Yeah, exactly. Like then knowing how to play a DJ set, like that's a whole nother aspect to it that is so important. And like if you've just been a bedroom producer, then you just get thrown in front of a crowd. It's a whole different thing.
Yeah, it can be rough, man. I've definitely a friend of mine in DC. I lived out there for a couple of years, and he was a young kid. He was getting a name for himself as a producer. I'm not gonna say his name because I don't want to embarrass him, but he was like 16, 17, and he got booked for his first show. A great producer, still a great producer, but he had never played before, and so yeah, and I can't even imagine, he played at like a full club in DC to like, whatever, 600, 800 people, and it was not great,
But you even see that same story, like the Kygo documentary is really amazing. It's the same thing as that. Like,
I haven't seen that.
Oh, watch it, man. It's on Apple Music. It's free.
I will.
And it's the same thing as that, like, they found him, he's making all this music, and it's like, then he starts getting booked for shows, and he's like, I don't really know how. So then they had to bring people in to like show him how to DJ and stuff like that, because like that's all another aspect of it that like is so important, because it's a 2-career kind of job. Is like, you can be a great producer, but you could be a shitty DJ. You could be a great DJ, but a shitty producer.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So like having a balance of both makes a great, electronic artist.
Yeah, I mean, you have to have both, and I think even someone who's never DJed before, I mean, if you throw them on the road long enough, they'll figure it out.
Yeah, I know.
But still, it might be a rough period there. So before Sunburn came to be, was there ever a thought in your mind that the previous projects had potential? Like, were there points where you were like, okay, this might be like what I do now?
Yeah, with Nobody, we had this opportunity. Is like one of my greatest stories is that it was in San Diego one night, and it was probably going into 2011 on New Year's. And we had just played the biggest show of our career at Voyeur.
Oh, yeah. R.I.P. Voyeur.
Rest in peace,
Legendary
Voyeur.
club.
Still have one of the skulls in my closet somewhere.
Oh, nice.
And biggest show ever, and it's so foggy, and they're like, yo, we can't find the next guy after us. Like, you got to keep going and do the ball drop and all that. We're like, hell yeah. And then we get a text message from like the main owners of LED, and they're like, yo, so it's so foggy, and they're running 2 shows of San Diego. They're like, we need somebody to come play like a headlining slot at the sold out sports arena for 15,000 people. We need you guys over here right now.
Nice.
And we're like, wait, trying to get a cab at 12 o'clock from Gaslamp.
On New Year's
Get on
Eve.
there and just get out there. And we had just played the biggest show ever in front of 500 people. And now we're standing in front of 15,000 people. And they're like, all right, guys, go.
Wow.
Yeah.
They must have really loved you, man.
Oh, dude. And then then the crazy thing is like, then we're sitting out
That
there
never
with like all of the
happens.
girlfriends and we're like, holy shit, what the fuck just happened? And then, like 30 minutes later, they come back out. They're like, yeah, looks like Axel missed his flight too. Like, you need to go back out. And they're
shit.
like, oh, shit. And we go back and then just people are just fucking screaming. Like, my phone is going off. Like, dude, are you on stage? What's like, because we had no visuals. We didn't have anything. It was
Yeah.
like, yo, we're nobody. Like, but then that was also kind of the joke too. It's like, hey, what's up? We're nobody. Like,
Yeah, that's kind of perfect, actually.
yeah, it was funny. And then that just kind of like after that, I was like, I've been chasing the high ever since.
Yeah. I guess we talked about it a little bit, but with those projects coming to a close, was there ever a point where you just kind of knew, like, okay, this is done now?
Yeah. I mean, for the actual project, or that, like, you know, like there was a point where I was
Or
like,
the potential for the project, you know, kind of
Yeah.
when you knew that you had to do something else.
yeah, there was always a time. Well, with my other project with the duo, it was you know, like a conflict between both of us that
Sure.
wasn't working, and I didn't feel like it was fair to like take the project and just run with it without him or whatever. So we decided to just split ways like that, you know. And then with my other project, it was just like it was so saturated in the sound, everything had been done. It was just like, and then I started to just hate it.
Yeah.
I started to hate the music, and just started becoming so cookie cutter generic that I was like, not into this. I'm not all about like, and then started finding something unique. And then I just kind of like went, all right, I'm putting this project to rest. I'm done. And,
Sure.
you know.
When did you realize, on the flip side of it, when did you realize that the Sunburn project had that real potential?
It was, I had come back because I just came from Splash House. It was about this time 4 years ago. Then I went straight to San Diego and just started working on remixes. And then I put one out like every week. And it went one Hype Machine number one went Hype Machine number one went Hype Machine number one.
Right.
And I had like 5 in a row in 5 weeks. And everyone's like, what is going
So
on?
kind of right off
And
the
then my
bat.
manager is like, what is going on? And then and shit just went from 0 to 1,000 like overnight. And it was like, okay, wow, like this has got something. This has got some kick. And then that's when like, boom, like I started getting remix offers. And then my agent came knocking on the door, and I was like, oh, okay, like this is happening. Like,
Yeah, that's a really good note. If you're doing all this stuff right, the people will come to you.
It's,
you know,
because never be too pushy and never be that fucking guy that's like trying to like put headphones on me in the club. Like that is never how you do it. Like good music will always shine through, but as long as you push it correctly online, and you know, and for so long it's like so many kids like they think it's just like all handouts, or like, you know, they're gonna put like, oh, you have to put this record out. I was like, no, like all these blogs like would not even fucking listen. And it's
Right.
like until you build credibility, until you show that what you're putting out constantly is going to be good music, that's when they trust you and will put out your music. So it took so long for them to trust, you know,
right.
in the brand. And then finally when your name is out there and you just finally build momentum, that's when things happen. And even like what most people don't even realize is California, like one of my biggest tracks, it was out like fucking years ago, and it got no traction,
Right.
nothing. So we took it down, re-released it, and you know, that's kind of like where it is now.
Yeah, it's
you
that
know?
right place, right time thing again,
Absolutely.
too, right? And I tell people that too. It's even if your music is good sometimes, and you're sending it to a label, and you don't understand, you know, why they won't respond or why they can't do it. It's probably because they have 100 other really good songs. You know, it's
Yeah,
like it's a competitive marketplace.
And then there's so much too. The one is like I really, really start to like find labels that I like truly respect, like Defected or Sweat It Out, and that just it's about the quality, not the quantity. And then you have like Spinning Deep, which is like the same shitty record recycled, and there's so much of it all the time that like it just doesn't make it special.
Right.
And that's the thing, is that having special records and like having trust in a record label, that seems to have gone away.
Yeah.
And that I think is like for me was like the coolest thing is like when you could trust a record label to be like,
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that for your career, because Raindrops was was that your first single as
yeah, that
Sunburn?
was my first single.
Okay, and that was obviously also your first big hit as Sunburn, and that came out with Ultra, is that
Yeah.
right? So what was the experience like? Had you worked with labels of that size before?
No, it kind of like so it came back to the All That She Wants remix of having that lunch. And his name's Charlie, amazing guy. And he's like, yo, I have this vocalist you should work with. Let's set up a studio. So we're in Venice Beach and with Curly, and I'm just like fucking scared shitless. Like,
Right.
I never worked in a studio like that or with a vocalist. And
Yeah, it's always intimidating when there's someone else kind of waiting for you to just do something good. you know?
Yeah, and I'm like terrified. And then out of the blue, Don Diablo just like walks in the door. And he just like sees this like scared little 21-year-old and like, he's like, yo, let's all take a little walk really quick. And then he just gives this like fucking heartfelt speech of just like, yo, get to know each other and talk about life and just, like he's like, don't feel this pressure to like write a fucking hit like right off the bat. He's like, that's not how it works. Like, because he just sees me like fucking sweating balls and just gives this heart to
That's
heart.
so nice. Just out of
just
nowhere.
out of the blue. And it's
Yeah.
just me, him, and Curly sitting on the beach. And it just kind of like, made me super comfortable. We went back in and kind of did this scratch thing. And I really took it to heart, and like he kind of like saved the fucking day, and I don't think he even realized.
Yeah, right. That's amazing. And so then how did the label hear it?
So then she was with Ultra.
Okay.
And
So there was always
so
kind
then
of
that was kind
potential.
of that there, and then after it just kind of took a mind of its own, and then when I signed with Ultra, and then that's when that whole thing kind of started to take place.
And are you still signed with Ultra?
I'm still with Ultra, yeah.
That's something I'm curious about because, we were talking earlier about how you need to be independent and you don't like working on somebody else's work. Does that apply? Because with a major label, I haven't released with Ultra, although I've done remixes for them, but I've had a lot of friends who either have contracts with them or, have talked about having a contract with them. And I know they can drive hard bargains, and I know, at least for some projects, they can be more involved than the artist wants them to be.
Yeah.
And how do you deal with, maintaining your sound and exactly what you want to do when you're working in a major label, so to speak, environment?
It's a tough one because it is big business, and you have to realize that going into it.
Yeah, it's based on money.
Yeah, and with the project is still like, I still owe them one more, and I know what they want and this and that, and like to give them, it's got to be the radio accessible kind of hit, and like that's totally fine. But at the end of the day, it's like what I would have liked to do, and what I'm trying to do is start a subsidiary underneath Ultra where I can have the creative outlet, but then they can also have, the song that they want to go run with it on Spotify and have that. So like,
Sure.
it's balance is do one for them, do one for you, do one for them, do one for you,
Right.
so that you don't go fucking crazy. Because
Well, and I like that. That's a cool idea because I think, the model for so many DJs right now is kind of you get a name for yourself, you get signed to whoever you get signed to, you fulfill your obligations, hopefully benefiting like you and the label. But then I think for a lot of people, then they stay independent after that, and maybe they'll start their own indie label or what have you. But the idea of actually just working with the label to build your own home kind of under that umbrella, that seems really smart to me.
Yeah,
Because you
because
can,
like now it's with Spotify and just the access, and then also like they believe in the project. Ultra's been amazing and believe in the project for so long, and if you can find a way, like, just like with life, like have a conversation and like work together. But then it's a give,
Yeah.
So like you have to, give pull, like so like you have to, give them what they want, but then also then you get what you want as well. So if you can find like a good balance where everybody can like profit and not necessarily profit, but like work together and everyone gets like what they truly want out of it. Like, I want
Right.
to put out like, you know, like a really like they've been so cool and let me put out like a, you know, like a club record, you know, that's like not gonna do huge numbers on Spotify,
Yeah.
but then you know, but then also then give them like the pop track. So like if you can be able to do both and make you happy and then make them happy,
Right.
you have a win-win situation.
Are you able to, if you want to, or if they're not interested in a record, are you able to put it out yourself still?
Yeah, they've been really, really cool about that. But even also putting out records. Like I have a new one called Melrose with these new guys called Strange Club, and it's gonna be a fucking cool record. But it's not like what they would want. But I'm like, yo, this it doesn't have to count for the the deal. But like, will you support and put it out for me and stuff like that? And they've been cool about it.
That's cool, man. And I think that's, maybe that's a key that some of my other friends who have had kind of negative experiences with bigger labels missed out on, is that if you can build that relationship, at least some of the time they'll be willing to work with you. Like there's a compromise.
Absolutely.
Like, like if you're willing, that's cool. I've never heard of anyone being like, it doesn't have to count to the obligation in the contract.
Because you can get it can get sour and stubborn. But then for me, at the end of the day, it's not about money. It's not about shit. It's about getting your records out there and as far as they can be. So it's like, okay, fine, it doesn't count, but like it's still going to be pushed by them. It's still going to get Spotify playlisting. It's going to get where it needs to be.
Yeah.
Versus if I throw a bitch fit about it and try to put it out myself, it doesn't have the same push as them. But then giving them what they want, and they're
Right.
like, but like...
Was there that expectation after Raindrops of what's the next hit gonna
Yeah,
be?
of course. Like once you start setting a bar for yourself, fuck, you got to keep...
Right.
And it becomes stressful at times. And then there was Gangster Walk. And then, so now it's like, what's next? And like you always have to outdo yourself, but then as an artist, like sometimes you just get lucky.
Right.
And not that I'm like a great producer or anything like that, but it's like sometimes you just like, fuck, that was a hit. But not every record. And then that's also, it's really hard for artists as well, is like to one up themselves every time. And like even with Disclosure after Settle, it's like, fuck, they're probably sitting there like, oh dude, how do we one up this one? You're like, shit.
At that level, I can't even imagine the pressure.
So it's really, really tough. And not every track that you make is gonna be this huge like hit,
Do you worry about that in the studio? Like if you're making something and
well, of course. You're like, you want everything to be great and you want everything to be a success. And sometimes it can be a mind fuck, and like you're just like, oh, this isn't good enough, whatever. Like I have so many tracks that's like, okay, this isn't amazing. This is a great song, but this isn't like fucking amazing,
Right. Are you conscious of trying to make a song for the radio? Is that a thought?
Yeah, I mean, that's in there of like especially the structure wise too, because in like how I make my tracks, like for me,
right?
Like I have a certain kind of format that I follow and structure. And then for radio stuff as well too, is that like you got to tell the story in 3 minutes and 30 seconds.
Yep.
So like it's a little bit different pace. And like for me, like why I love techno and tech house is like it's all about the build and like the tension, and that is what makes the drops so significant.
Right.
But with like pop and other stuff like that, it's just like one and the other and the other. It's just like a condensed version of it. So you don't really get that build. You don't really get any tension in pop music. It's just go.
You mentioned Gangsta Walk earlier, and I didn't even really realize till I was doing a little research last night that was actually an unreleased Nate Dogg vocal that you used on it. How did you even get that?
So after
or even find that?
So after like the 50 Cent remix, this guy that like just kind of owns like all the rights to like Public Enemy and all this stuff is like, yo, this was amazing. Like I have like all these unreleased acapellas and all this shit. Like let's have lunch and like let me give you some stuff and see what you can do. And then that one was in there, and it took. I think I did the track in a weekend. Like I just kind of like. It clicked, and I was like, all right, this is awesome. And then it took a year and a half to like track down his estate, figure out who's alive, like who this and that.
Right.
And then there's a lot that had to be cut out of it, because then Dre actually owns like a significant amount of rights.
I was wondering about that.
Like his main line, which is smoke weed every day.
Yeah.
Like that line is in that track too. But like what ended up happening is he got in some trouble or something like that. And Dre ended up having to bail him out of jail. And then Dre's like, you got to do a track for me, which just happened to be the next episode.
Wow.
So his own line, Dre owns. So if we kept that in there, we would have to we'd have to pay a lot of money.
I mean, it's amazing you were able to clear it at all, man. I feel like there's probably a lot of, rappers that couldn't do that.
Dude, I don't know. Like it was weird because then we had to do takedowns of like one of his friends and tried to put like a beat over it. If you like try to find Gangster Walk, there's like some shitty like really horrible version out there that like, because like after like a rapper dies or something like that, it's always like someone tries to like then recreate like a track or like put a beat over like an unreleased whatever, you know what I mean? Like Tupac, like that's the whole like Dave Chappelle skit of like, this is the new Tupac coming out like at the club,
right.
Like it's just kind of like that culture or whatever. And I don't know how the fuck we did it, but I had like no like. There was a point that I was like, this is never going to happen.
Well, because I'm just imagining the percentages on the record must be split between so many people.
Yeah, I probably don't get anything, right? And that was the point where like they're like, do you care? I don't give a fucking shit, dude. I just want this record to come out.
Right.
That was not what it was about, you know?
Yeah. Well, sometimes, especially if you're collaborating with a bunch of people or, working with an estate of a famous person, that's the way it's got to go sometimes. If you want the record to... People will argue a lot less when you stop caring about the money. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like, when people realize that you are not focused on the money issue, I think that's, for a lot of people, then they're like, oh, okay, he actually did this because he likes the art.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's what it should be about anyway. Don't get taken advantage of, but...
Yeah, 100%, which brings us back to, Ultra and the other major labels who are focused on money and back to that whole dance. So once you fulfill your obligation to them, you're looking to make your own label if you can.
Start my own and then not only that is that like so many I didn't even like now I have these like I have like with great power comes great responsibility. Like these kids coming to me sending the records is like what the fuck do we do? And there's so much great shit. Is that like I would like to start like an outlet and a collective of like like finding other music and like being there to help people and just like having something cool and standing for something.
Yeah. And I mean, it sounded like you had some people who kind of looked out for you, or at least showed you some production tips and all that when you were young. That's something more of us could do. I think a lot of people who are really doing well right now and touring and putting out records that are well received, it's kind of easy to get caught up in that little bubble and just be like, life is great. I don't have to do anything else. But it's... for the future of this music, which I think is something everyone is very concerned about right now and something I think about a lot, I think it's really important to bring in the younger generation if we can, because everyone keeps talking about is the EDM bubble bursting, is dance music, is it going to go away? These giant companies that came up a few years ago, some of them went bankrupt, festivals are going out of business, all this kind of stuff. And music is cyclical, right? So I mean, I'm sure there will be some new trend. I don't know what it is.
That's what I've been thinking. And okay, what's next?
Right.
And because
we've had a pretty good run so far.
I think the next shit what I've been like making and like even like what I've been talking to people about is like this tribal kind of shit. You even hear like Axwell and Grosso kind of doing like this like tribally house. It's like kind of what Kygo I think will go to of like it's higher energy. It has this like really cool rhythm, but it's still like house music. You know what I mean? And like that kind of like what like really old Major Lazer kind of like Pond de Floor kind of like that era, but like not as like reggae Moombahton oriented. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and it's cool for me to hear you talk about that for the house world, which is, I mean, I kind of built my career in Chicago, which is the home of house music, and I love house. I grew up DJing house music, but it's not what I do anymore, and I wouldn't claim to be, an expert on like where the sound is heading. So it's very cool to hear that, you guys on your side of the field are working on that. For any genre, I'm sure drum and bass is progressing in ways I don't know. But
things come back too. Like they generate like, and especially now too. Like it's crazy because like in my sets, and this is another thing that I just don't fucking understand with so many producers and DJs is just like, it's all about like, all right, what's Beatport Top 100? Same fucking sets over and over. It's like, no man, dig back. Like throwing like a throwback in your sets and stuff like that is, I think for me the coolest is like, I remember seeing like Hannah once, like down the street at some fucking warehouse,
Right.
and like she dropped polka dots, like Afrojack, Oliver Twist,
Classic,
and
yeah.
I was like, holy fuck, like. So then I took that one and then
Yeah.
started incorporating that into my sets, and I was like, what other stuff is there like that's old, like Old Boys Noise, and like all these other.
Yeah, I think we're at this point now where a lot of people got into this scene 07, 08,
Yeah.
Bloghouse era. And, now it's 2017, it's 10 years later. And I think that's maybe finally enough time where people are starting to look back. There's enough distance and enough history.
It becomes a classic.
Yeah, exactly. And to remember, because we're so much about pushing things forward, progressing sounds, always looking for what's new. But, sometimes you get into an area where you kind of what you were talking about with your older projects, where you're like, oh, wait, this isn't entertaining anymore. This isn't interesting anymore. And I think it's interesting that we're at a point now where we can look back and take inspiration from like, oh, this is why we started doing this.
Yeah.
Like, this is what was really exciting. So how can I take that vibe and that energy and present it in a way that a raver in 2017 is going to like?
It's crazy because I was just with a friend and we were just going through all throwbacks before I was like playing my set for this past weekend at Splash House. And we're like, holy shit, music was so fast. Like 130, like that, and everything now is just around 124, 125. It's really different, but it also gives a different groove as well too. That was just like, I don't know how to like the slower it is, the more room there is for rhythm, I guess.
Sure. Well, and that's another interesting thing I was thinking about driving over here is, what the music you play and the music I play are different and kind of serve different purposes, even though you could hear it at the same day at a festival. And so for me, playing, super high energy, like drop oriented banger kind of tunes, it works really well late at night in a hot, sweaty room, everyone kind of packed in where you just kind of like building that energy, you know what I mean? And then when it can be more difficult is when you're playing 2 p.m. in the bright sunlight, next to a pool or something like that, then that contextualizing that music gets harder because it's more aggressive and it's the presentation. And then so I wondered for you, the flip of it, where, I think for you playing at a pool party is like, oh, this is what this music is meant for, is like sun vibes, swimsuits, water, splash, all that. Like it's that vibe. How do you translate it then to when you take it to, the 1 a.m. slot at a hot, sweaty club? Is it still mellow vibes there?
No, everything like, I don't go really too mellow.
Okay.
The best way that I have like tried to describe in a sense is like, my music, I hate the word tropical house, but it's like tropical house with balls. Like, so like, it's got meat to it. Like, it's not this like floaty, like pan flute shit.
Right.
But like, I will like, cause I have to play my hits, but then I also have so many, like, I have like remixes of my songs that I'll never put out and different stuff like that I have for different times of like a heavy version of Raindrops or like different versions of California that for like, if I want to get like really warehousey, I have that. Or like if I have more pool party vibe, I'll play more of like the original kind of stuff.
Well, and
like
you were
that.
just talking, I mean, if you're playing polka dots, like I would play polka dots. That's
I have like a polka dots like gangster rock fucking mashup thing that just like combines like, so I like to take my music and classics and just make these like, secret weapons.
Yeah. Well, and again, man, it's all the same shit at the end of the day, too. That's the funniest part for me. I was thinking about, like, if we were playing at the same festival, I read something you were talking about when you played at EDC, and then I started thinking about when I played at EDC, and I was like, that must have been the two most different EDC experiences that two DJs could have. Because in my mind, EDC, just because, it's the world I'm in, so I'm hanging out with all the bass music dudes. We're over at the bass pod. It's just banger after banger for 9 hours until 6 in the morning, and you're exhausted. But then for you, like, I don't even know what your EDC experience would be like and what that stage would be like.
It was...
it's weird to me that, like, there's no mixing of those.
No, because, like, also it was a collaboration, a back-to-back with Dr. Fresh. So we sat down for like a fucking day and we're like, okay, how do we take my sound, your sound, and EDC and make this into like a fucking spectacular? Because like you can't like go full Sunburn, like
Right.
kind of there.
Right.
And then Dr. Fresh is a little heavier. So we're like, how do we take our hits and everything, combine it together, throw in some classics, and then that's kind of what we did. Is like it was like a little bit of me, a little bit of him, throwing in like the Who, and then throwing in throwbacks and throwing in classic songs that like people knew, and making this kind of just like nice little EDC pod of stew. And, you know?
Right. Well, what do you have coming up next, man? You were mentioning a new release pretty soon.
Yeah, I have a new release coming out, Ultra, called Melrose with my boys Strange Club.
When is that coming out?
I think we have the release date. It's coming out in three weeks.
Okay, that
Yeah,
might be right around when this drops, so that'd be good.
Yeah, it's perfect. Yeah, it's coming out soon. We don't have a full release date yet, but it's coming up real soon. I have a remix for LDRU that's coming out, and then I'm kicking off my fall tour, which is called After Dark, which is going to be this kind of deeper, darker Sunburn of like I'm gonna do a couple. It's kind of like the Cascade Redux tour.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I'm gonna do some remixes of my own tracks, but really these kind of like darker tech house remix, and do kind of that tour for fall, and then
I really like the idea of those themed tours.
it's fun because like I've done my tour and it's always been about a song or promoting like the song that's out. But this one I was like, I want to do something different and something like, you know, a little bit cooler and touch on like, hey, this is not something that you have seen before. Because
Right.
like every time you've like, after you've seen an artist for like fucking 3 years, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
How can you like do something different? And that's why like I really look up to Cascade and kind of like that whole, and I also love the small intimate vibe is like doing that and making it personal and just like finding something cool and different.
Yeah. Do you like being on tour? You like being on the road?
Yes, I love it. But then there's points where you hate it.
Yeah.
And then, all right, I need it. Like, and it's always the same fucking thing. And it's like, I come back here and I'm like, all right, a month. All right, okay. Can I leave again?
Yeah. Yeah. I think all DJs have that, man. It's the grass is always greener.
Yeah,
and-
you when you're on tour, like you finally you're like, oh, I want to be home. But then when you're home, you're like, I want to be on tour.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. We can never rest, man. I don't know
No.
what that is.
that's why we do what we love.
Yeah. As far as the deeper, darker vibe on the tour, is that something you're trying to get into musically as well?
Yeah, I mean, I love just like kind of tech house, the Latman, Deadlift, kind of UK shit, and then even like
I love
I
that
also
too.
love, and then what I'm starting to get into more too is just like, and that's also back to the balance with with Ultra and like like MK does it very well. He does his big song, but then he does the MK Dub remix, and
Right.
then like even you saw it with like Gorgon City and Duke Dumont is that like they have the fucking Terrace mix, like so it's like do the big single. But then you can do your own little cool version of it, and it's
Yeah.
still your song. You know what I mean?
Well, and that takes it all the way back to the history of dance music. I mean, in the 80s and 90s, when a dance artist would put out a song, there would be 4 other mixes of it on the same single. And they did all of them.
Yeah,
It wasn't even
exactly.
remixes. It was just different versions.
Even Elton John, like
Yeah, true.
Yeah,
That's
I was
true.
looking at that one. It's like, are you ready for love? There's like a fucking disco mix. There's like I was like, holy shit! Okay, this goes way, way, way back. You know?
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah.
And like that's what I think people forget. And like, okay, and that's what I told him was like, okay, when we do the remix comps, like, I want to be on it. Like, I want
Right.
I want to remix my own shit because then I can do a different version of it. And like,
Yeah, well,
I think
I'm
that's
sure
cool
you'll
too.
do it better than anyone else,
Absolutely.
Is there anything else you want to get out there, man?
I think that's about it. I'll be in Australia all November, so that's really cool. Like first time going there, so I'm super excited
It's
for
amazing
that.
out there, man. You'll love it. So the last thing I like to ask before I end all of these, just a really simple question. You don't have to think about it too much. First thing that pops into your mind, what's just a musical memory, a time in your life when music really affected you? It could be a concert you saw or a song you heard on the radio, or just a tape you bought or whatever. First thing that pops into your mind.
I think seeing Blink-182 in concert was like the greatest thing ever. I was like beyond obsessed with them.
How old were you?
Fuck, dude, I don't want my parents to let me go. Maybe like 14 or 15.
Yeah.
I had to be like 8th grade.
Yeah.
And I was like the fucking like that was like the only like I love that band. I still have all the CDs somewhere in my house. Like that was and I was like because I just like idolized those guys more than anything.
Yeah. Was that like one of your first concerts?
Yeah, one of my
concerts?
first big concerts, and like they was also like they had something about it is that like for me too, it's like some people, some DJs would just take shit so seriously, no fucking smiles and nothing. It's like those guys are cracking jokes on stage, having fucking smiles, having a good time with it. The personality shine through, and like they're just having a good time. I think that's what it's all about.
Yeah, man, I completely agree. And I think now that we've talked for an hour, I feel like your personality and your music are pretty aligned too. So maybe,
Thank you, man.
Yeah, man. Even at a young age, you were picking up on that from Blink-182. That's cool. Well, hey, man, thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you for having me out, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Back to the living room sessions.
That's right. Let's go. Peace.
All right,
All right, that's the show. Thank you so much to Sunburn for sitting down and doing this with me, man, for having me over at your place. It was awesome to get to know you. The way the world works, I'm sure our paths will cross again soon now that we met for the first time. For everybody listening, thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode. This was a fun one. My name is Willy Joy. You can holler at me on all social media at Willy Joy. You can email me at backtobackpod@gmail.com. I want to hear from you guys. I know I say that all the time, but it's true. I want to read your emails on the air, ask me questions, insult me, anything you want to do, it's cool. I won't be mad. Well, I might be a little mad, but I'll get over it. That's it. I hope you guys have a great week. I will see you next Tuesday for more Back to Back. Peace.